20 billion connected devices, which means disruption will soon be coming to the mobile world at the speed of life. Diverse array of smart things and devices, connected by a flexible and powerful complement of networks and services. This is the 5G future that awaits us, and it's approaching at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Intel's Global Communications, Lindsay Seck.
Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have some exciting news to share about Intel's efforts to accelerate 5G. Before we get started, I have a few quick updates. If you're live tweeting, and we hope you are, please use hashtag MWC16 and hashtag Intel. For press materials, please visit our newsroom at intel.com/newsroom/MWC. And for any media inquiries, please visit us at the PR desk at the back of the booth. Now, I am pleased to welcome Corporate Vice President and General Manager of Intel Communication and Devices Group, Aisha Evans.
Hear me? Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. This is one of my favorite industry events, so welcome to the Intel booth. And we're looking forward to a robust conversation on 5G. So, by the way, also, I hope you all have a great show. What we are really witnessing right now is a third revolution around billions of devices, 20 billion devices, 50 billion things. I like to refer to it as the machines are coming. And they are going to need to be computing, obviously, but they're also going to need to be connected. And we are really, really excited to be leading this industry, working with all of our partners so that we can get the networks ready. Because in addition to the phones and tablets and phablets that are currently in use with billions of subscribers, we expect that there will be robots, there will be drones, there will be all kinds of things, right, that today are not connected, that will be connected and really enabling us to have a very, very different work life and personal life. In order for us to be able to deliver to that vision, we need to start today and make some changes to the network, to the devices, to the cloud, and to the infrastructure. And this is what Intel is committed to doing, and that's what we call the path to 5G. This new generation of devices are going to require an end-to-end transformation. The reality is the wireless ecosystems, the wireless networks were really built for voice and data over the past few years. And as these things come onto the network, we're going to need to make some changes. We're going to need to get that ready ahead of the volume so that we can enable all of these experiences. And today, we will demonstrate that these new experiences will require 5G and highlight some of the most important things about that. The other thing that's really, really key, if you take one takeaway from this next hour, is nobody's going to lead alone. This is going to be requiring unprecedented collaboration, cooperation between infrastructure vendors, between operators worldwide, between different industries that today are not even connected. And we are going to have to do that together and figure out how do we get the network ready in phases as the devices come on board. Now, the reason that first statement was important is because we need 5G to do that. That's essentially the point, and we need to start that right now because it is going to enable our future. And Intel believes that this is the fundamental right-hand turn for both the compute industry, the wireless industry, as well as all of the verticals that are going to benefit from this, and also the cloud and data center, because everything will be happening from device to network, including infrastructure, to cloud and back. So, getting the ecosystem ready ahead in time with the partners across and around the world is going to be key, because we also want this to be one global standard, irrespective of where you are around the world, so that as the things come onto the network, we can guarantee that they work and we can deliver the experiences. I always say 1 to 4G was kind of person-to-person communication of voice and data. Now, it's a little bit more than that, but at a macro level, that's what it is. 5G will be around networks, devices, wireless technologies, and the industries that are coming online to get connected. And the next generation of standards, of networks, will need to solve more complex problems, because it's not just going to be about faster, that will be a component of it, but it also is going to be about smarter, more efficient. We all know the spectrum situation around the world, and it is going to be about the built-in intelligence, so that as the devices and things come online, they work and deliver to the promise of the experiences. A lot of people ask me, how do you explain to your child or to your children? I have 2 of them, and they are very active users of compute and connected devices. How do you explain to your child 5G? And I said, actually, those are the easiest people to explain it to. They know what's wrong with the networks of today, given what they want to do. First of all, they want to be connected, and they want access to the cloud, no matter what their device is, no matter whether they are at school, at home, at work, well, they don't work, in the car, or when they are doing sports, when they are skiing and they want to know how fast they are going and so on, and what changes they need to make. So, really, the future use cases and the future users, from the autonomous car, from entertainment in the car, to the emerging markets. We believe, for example, education even may be disrupted by this trend, to the drones. And I know it was funny, I was at the keynote this morning, and they were talking about the drones and whether they were toys or not. There was another word in there, but I'll save you that one. Somebody called them boy toys. I don't think so. They are girl toys too. But the point is, when we look at drones, we look at the possibility of moving goods, right? Delivering them. We look at the possibility of getting information and video and monitoring. Some of us even look at the possibility of configurable base stations in the air, depending on traffic patterns. So, 5G is the answer, and the way to do that is we need to sit there, we need to make all of the changes to the networks, test them, make sure that from an interoperability standpoint, make sure that from a spectrum standpoint, make sure that from a flexibility and intelligence standpoint, the network is ready, whether you're at home, at work, or on the move. And it's going to change how many industries do business. I basically like to call it the machines are coming, and they are going to be on the network, because basically if they compute and they are not connected, they can't deliver to the promise that we want to deliver. So, how do we make this a reality? Because I'm also aware, I read the press like everybody else, what is 5G? Is it just blah, blah, blah? Is it PowerPoint? What is it really? So, smart cities, education, emergency services, drones, personal assistant, robots, configurable base station, autonomous vehicles, all of these things will be on the network, licensed or unlicensed. And with the convergence of compute and communication end-to-end, basically, we are transforming the network to make sure that those things are ready. And the network transformation, what some of our groups are doing, for example, around network function virtualization, is also part of getting ready for that, because on the infrastructure, we're going to need to make those changes in parallel to in the devices and on the network. I'm going to start with a very, very simple example, and then we will build from there with some of our demos and some of the things we'll be showcasing. In emerging market today, you have most people have either a cell phone or a smartphone. We can argue whether they have a high-end smartphone or a low-end smartphone, but they have a device. And now I'm going to head over to Jeff. Hi Jeff, how are you? Good, so why don't you tell us about what we're showcasing here?
What we've got here is an entry-level smartphone with an Atom X3 processor in it, and it's connected over HDMI to this display. And you can see we're doing what a lot of people will do so that they can enjoy their movies better. I've got the movie playing on the big screen, so I can sit back instead of watching and squinting on a little screen. But like I say, for a lot of people in emerging markets, they've only got one device, and they need to be able to do a lot with that. So you can see actually when I stop this movie, we've actually got a windowed interface here using Linux running on the phone that lets them do a lot of things that they would do on the phone, but have that big screen, have a keyboard, have a mouse, and be able to do things like type an email easily. Or I've got some photos on my phone, I want to find the right one to put into the email, I can just drag and drop that into my email message and send that off.
So you're bringing productivity, basically.
Yeah, just the beginnings of that. So, someone that's got a little shop in an emerging market, and they've got to be able to run their business a little better, it gives them the beginnings of productivity so they can do that a little easier.
Okay.
But, this is a phone, so we can actually bring the phone onto the screen. We can use the dialer, make a phone call, speakerphone, and then when we're done, we'll just disconnect. We'll say, we're done on the big screen. You'll see that goes out, and our phone lights back up, and we're back on the road.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So this is a simple example in emerging market, and from there we can really let's talk about the futuristic stuff, because this is actually happening as we speak, and obviously we hope that that emerging market user eventually graduates to some of the technologies. So Intel is leading and delivering in the 5G future. Client, network, cloud. But we can't do it alone. So when we look at this and the convergence of communication and compute, the partnerships are really, really, really key. Because we know and we've learned through some of our past experiences that working with the ecosystem and making sure that we deliver this together is fundamental. We have 5 pillars, so we look at this in terms of what it means to accelerate 5G. We look at our global partnerships, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, and collaborating with the key industry leaders and trendsetters. We also look at the products on the way. This is not going to be, okay, wait until 2020 and then products will come in. This is really about starting to deliver products and starting to make the right-hand turn so that we can really test the networks and see what's going on and deliver to that. This is also about end-to-end design from client to network to cloud. So some of the work we're doing on the infrastructure side is absolutely key. This is about time to market, rapid prototyping. Some of the theories about what we're trying to deliver, for example, millimeter wave technology, making sure that we're delivering those today, testing them, doing interoperability testing, making sure that the physics match the reality is very important. Last but not least, making sure that we drive with the ecosystem for standard leadership so that all of the solutions are standardized in IEEE, in 3GPP, as well as around the cloud, as well as around network function virtualization is key, so that everybody can then implement to these standards. So, talking about the partnership, this is, I understand, fundamental, and this is something that we're absolutely committed to. We are working with leaders worldwide, not just in the US or not just in Europe or not just in Asia, worldwide, to make sure that the TAMs, meaning the infrastructure vendors, the device makers, including, by the way, partners and competitors, as well as the operators worldwide, who are collaborating and building to the same thing. So let's talk about a few of our partners. This is just the list today. Expect it to grow. It's going to continue. We're working, as you can see, with leading operators worldwide. We're working with different industry leaders around routers. We're working with infrastructure vendors. We're working with friends and competitors to make this happen. And you can expect over the next few months and years to see more and more partners added to this, because we think that one of the things that Intel brings to the equation is the ability to get all these partners together working towards the same goal. We also have some partnerships that we had announced already, but there is new news. So, for example, with Ericsson, we have 5G solutions and we are now engaging in actual field trials. And I think you'll hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. With KT, Korea Telecom, we are also implementing 5G trials towards 2018 with a joint standardization effort. With LG, we are developing a pilot for the wireless industry for next generation cars. With Nokia, we are working on 3 standard 5G radio technologies and network solutions as we speak, and we expect those to then go to trial. With SK, we are actually developing and verifying 5G mobile devices as we speak, network solutions, and also working around license access, like LAA basically, license assisted access, so that we can run LTE over the unlicensed band and run Wi-Fi over the licensed band. So as you can see, even though these partnerships were announced a while back, this is progress and the status of things that are happening as we speak, and we're way beyond just the PowerPoint stage. Verizon is another important one. I think you've all read about the Verizon Forum and how they are also leading the industry. We are part of that, along with many other companies. Same thing, we are also engaged with actual trials with them, and we're really, really looking forward to this. But you know what, I was thinking it's easy for me to stand up here and tell you about all the partnerships. Wouldn't it be better to hear from one of our partners? So I'm inviting on the stage the Senior Vice President and Head of the Business Unit for Cloud and IP at Ericsson, Mr. Anders Limbold.
Hey Aisha, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it and hope you're having a great show. So first, last year, Hans and BK announced some collaboration around the cloud. So, was it just PowerPoint or is something happening?
That was only PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
No, I think first of all, great to have 2 engineering companies, and that's what BK told me when we met up as well.
I do.
2 engineering companies working together is just fantastic. Not just the managers, but you actually get the engineers, sitting down, looking at innovative technology, and that's what we decided to do about a year ago. We worked really hard to introduce rack scale architecture, a new reference architecture for data centers. Ericsson decided to adopt this really innovative way of working. We worked together for this year to actually get it technically ready, operationally ready, market is ready for it, customers want it, so I think it's really great. By the way, you have it in the corner of your booth over there, HDS 8000, our rack scale architecture working with Intel.
Perfect.
Cool thing is today we also launched how we will bring this to market through the biggest OEM, Quanta. Quanta actually works with practically any data center provider in the world. They have a large share of the whole industry. They will actually scale up our solution where we bring in Intel innovation, Ericsson innovation, and we bring that to the customer in an unparalleled manner. So I'm very pleased with that.
Unbelievable. 12 months later and it's happening for real. Thank you.
Yes, it's commercially available even.
Now what about 5G? What does Ericsson think and how are we working together?
You mentioned a couple of things, and I think, you talked a little about what we call narrowband IoT, the thinks that the radio part is extremely important. There will be one part where we're working together, and it's the devices that the consumers or the enterprises have. I think you will talk about some enterprise devices later on. That is, of course, an extremely important part to actually work with the ecosystems to drive that innovation, unless it won't happen. The other part, which is actually coming back to the cloud. So the distributed cloud requires a very solid open standard when it comes to how we actually introduce this 5G and IoT. We call it sometimes MFV or 5G ready cloud. One of the most important part of this is actually OpenStack. Here we also have a strong collaboration, and the NFV infrastructure builds on two open standards. It's OpenStack and Open Data. For me, I think with the radio, with the end user devices, and also with the standardization we're driving, with two strong engineering companies that actually will make it happen.
Perfect, there you have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Really appreciate it.
Great being here. Thanks.
So, let's also talk about products, because at the end of the day, we're going to need to deliver products along the way. Something really subtle happened this last year. We are now building as a company, as Intel, new products that are specifically focused for the IoT segment, and we're not waiting for the future. We are starting now, as well as obviously we are also continuing to deliver on our product portfolio and the next generation for smartphones, PCs, and tablets. So, today we are announcing a range of connectivity solutions and wireless solutions for IoT. I will go into a little bit more details about them, as well as obviously our next generation LTE solutions for smartphones, tablets, and PCs. It was last year that we introduced 7360, which is now marching towards volume, and now we are introducing the Intel XMM 7480, which is the next generation of that, and will march towards volume next year. So, let's first talk about the family of IoT solutions. And I know it's a busy slide, but I wanted to give you a view for, again, part of the right-hand turn that we're making. We're looking at all of the applications that are emerging and will be even more persistent in the future around video security, the connected car, wearables, energy management, as well as smart buildings towards smart cities. And we are looking at 3GPP releases and the different data rates, the different peak throughputs, the different channel widths that will be required, and making sure that we are building the portfolio of today and tomorrow to serve these markets. And you can expect a yearly cadence where we will be continuing to build on these. In addition, we are also announcing XMM 7480, the next generation from 7360. This will be, or is actually I should say, for carrier aggregation. This is again a global SKU. We know that we told you we're absolutely committed to global mobility and a global SKU, and it will have all of the high performance features and the power reductions that we are expecting to have to deliver. We feel that this is a device that is well timed for the market and what operators and tier 1 OEMs are actually putting to market as 3CA is coming online right now. So, narrowband LTE, Anders mentioned that. I also talked about the fact that with the right-hand turn and getting ready for 5G, it's important to have some great solution towards this space. So we're going to demonstrate, and you can see them in even more detail throughout our booth, but we are very, very excited to be able to demonstrate narrowband LTE. So with that, let's hear from Brent. Oh, excuse me, Chuck. Hi, Chuck.
Hey, Isha, how's it going?
Doing well,
Now,
thank you.
as IoT continues to grow and expand, we need to make sure we have an efficient way to talk to all those brand new devices. So, Intel works with numerous wireless technologies. One of those is called narrowband IoT. Now, narrowband IoT is really optimized to work with all those IoT devices that speak at specific times or intervals. So, those devices tend to be battery powered, so power efficiency is extremely important, but they're also mobile. So we want to make sure we have the widest cellular connection possible. So let me show you how we would use NB IoT to, maybe track, an asset track, things like this wireless or this electric bike here. Now, I can't really take this bike and ride it around the booth, so let's go to our computer simulation here. And here you can see I've taken two bikes. They're both identical, but I've equipped one with narrowband IoT, the other one with standard LTE. Now, at the beginning of the day, they started right next to our base station. They both had a great connection. They're able to transmit not only their location, but their battery power. Throughout the day, as they move further away, that signal gets attenuated. And you can see where we're at today. They still both have good signals. They're both able to broadcast their battery power. But let's look at the spectrum analyzer. Notice how efficient of use of bandwidth we have with narrowband IoT. Now let's go to the next step in our journey here. There you go. Now you can see our bike's moved on, the signal's been attenuated, and LTE has dropped off. We're no longer able to track that bike. So if I was tracking it, I wouldn't know where it's at. I wouldn't know what the battery life is. But notice the narrowband IoT. It is still connected. We're still able to find out what the battery life is. So again, with one quick demo, we're able to show the extended cell coverage of narrowband IoT. We're able to show the efficient use of bandwidth. And because I don't have the extra overhead of LTE, I'm able to do this asset tracking and management at a much lower cost point. Thanks, Aisha.
Thank you, Chuck. We appreciate it. So, we also talked about the fact that end-to-end solution. So if you even looked at some of these demos, this is not just about the devices themselves or the use case themselves. It's making sure that depending on where we are, depending on what LTE coverage is available or what Wi-Fi coverage is available, and also depending on the signal conditions, the chipset and the solution is able to adapt accordingly. So, partnerships again for end-to-end expertise, from data analytics, cloud, to the network, to the infrastructure, to devices, absolutely key. This will allow us to have faster time to market, to have faster innovation cycles, and faster learnings, because the reality is we don't know everything yet about 5G, and some of it is about getting into market and figuring out whether the physics are matching the reality, whether what we anticipated around the use cases is actually happening, and how do we adjust to that. I was actually planning to have one of my partners, Sandra Rivera, hopefully maybe she will be able to still get here. She's rushing over here to talk about what we are doing on the network side to make that available. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look like she's here yet. So hopefully if she arrives a little bit later, I will come back to that. Is she here? Oh, perfect timing. Yay! Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Am I on?
Yes.
Oh, I'm on. Yes, thank you.
Definitely. So, why don't you tell us about what you're investing in to help this future happen through the network, infrastructure, and cloud?
Thank you for the network of tomorrow.
Yes.
So we are investing in 4 areas, as you know, Aisha. First of all, built on a foundation of technology leadership, of course, in both our silicon and our software ingredients, and doing all types of innovations for what is required in those communications networks of tomorrow, whether it's fast, high-performance packet processing, whether it is areas in terms of having the highest performance data plane or control plane, or even all the way up into the management and orchestration layer. So a lot of the contributions that we're making into OpenStack, so that you can take advantage of the underlying silicon ingredients when you're building your NFV infrastructure on Intel. But above that, we are investing in open source and open standards. We believe there's a role for both of those, whether it's IETF, of course, all the work that you do in 3GPP, the work that we're doing in ETSI, both on the NFV industry specification group, as well as the mobile edge computing, where a lot of the new services are being trialed at the edge of the network. Open source projects, OpenStack, Open Daylight, OPNFV, Open vSwitch, all of those initiatives are critical. The second area is around our reference architecture, so putting all the ingredients together, characterizing them for a specific solution, whether it's a virtual CPE or a virtual EPC, a virtual router, virtual IMS. So being able to characterize those into a framework, publish that as a recipe, and then scale that out through our ecosystem, which is the third area of investment, which is our deep engagement and investments and nurturing of a broad ecosystem. So there, what we do is we work with our great customers and partners, many of which have been featured at this show in terms of new announcements, with Ericsson, with Nokia, with, of course, all of the work we're doing with Cisco and others to innovate in that next generation network on the path to 5G. And then the last area that we focus is really on the end user engagement. So working with our ecosystem and our partners to engage with communication service providers, cloud service providers, and the enterprise end users, so that we can really understand when you stand up a system and a platform, what are the real characteristics of that system and platform, and what is the value proposition to that end customer. So open source, open standards, our reference architectures, our deep commitment to the ecosystem, and then, of course, our engagement directly with the end users, that built on a foundation of technology and innovation.
So as we are doing on the device side and the radio side, so that means that you're also in key collaborations and partnerships on the path to 5G, right?
Well, it's end-to-end, right? It's end-to-end. So you look after all of our radio technology, our air interface, our modem capability, and then we're worrying about all of the network as well as the cloud elements. And really, by having that capability end-to-end and really understanding how customers will not just utilize but benefit from having a consistent architecture throughout their client, their access, their core, and their cloud networks, we're really bringing a lot of the new innovations to the market a lot more quickly.
So a lot of people ask, okay, what is Intel's role in it? And both of us think that Intel is really uniquely positioned, right? Because how many companies deal with both ends? What do you think about that?
I think how many companies have Aisha?
Sandra?
So we're really lucky. No. I do think that we have such deep partnerships and such a great capability that we built over many, many years, embracing the idea of open, embracing the idea of broad market participation, embracing the idea of having an end-to-end view of what really resonates with the end customer, what is the value, and how to deploy faster. And I think the name of the game really is time to market. Yes. We always talk about, perfection is the enemy of good enough, yes, and good enough is the enemy of time to market. And so everything that we're doing together is learn, iterate, and improve, and deploy. Learn, iterate, improve,
and deploy. Well, thank you. It's good to see you, and I really appreciate that you ran over here to make it.
All right, Aisha.
Thank you. There you have it, Sandra Rivera, our Vice President of the Data Center Group, working on the network side of things. As we've said, we're looking at devices, network, infrastructure, cloud, the data analytics, the data center, and back, and hopefully a view that on the partnerships we're doing it really also end-to-end, because it's key. So, this I'm very excited about, because a lot of people tell me, okay, is it PowerPoint, what's really going on, and so on and so forth. So we are announcing today that we have an actual platform, an actual prototype available. We are working with our partners, this is for real, and it is a combination of Intel's assets from our CPU, DNA, and strengths, as well as our FPGAs, as well as our radio technology. And this high-performance development platform is allowing us to be in trials as we speak, and is allowing us to see whether the physics are matching the reality. And the next step is to take this prototype, and we're working on that as we speak. I can actually show you that the radio that is the part of this prototype, the silicon has actually already been made, and we're waiting to start testing it in the lab. So the prototype is for real, and we think that it's really, really key. And obviously right now it looks like a big little thing, but we're going to put it in silicon and deliver a roadmap of product. So demonstrate mobile edge, millimeter wave. We've talked about the fact that when we talk about 5G, it's not just a brand new technologies or existing technologies. It's taking existing technologies like LTE and Wi-Fi and improving on them, but it's also creating new technologies like millimeter wave so that we can take advantage of 28 gigahertz and up and the full frequency and spectrum available out there. So to demonstrate growing data traffic demand and new deployment, we have this demo that we will show you. And oops, sorry. Excuse me, can you go back one? Thank you. With that, Brent, I see you over there. Are you there? Are you ready?
Hi, Aisha. Yeah, we all want to explore how we can accelerate the standardization and deployment of 5G networks. So what we brought to the booth today is some of the technology we are trialing to look at what 5G opportunities and challenges are going to look like. Specifically, I bought 2 special streetlights with prototype 60 gigahertz technology. The first street light is back behind me, and it has a fiber connection directly to the internet. Well, that's fantastic. But not everywhere I want to put small cells, Wi-Fi infrastructure, and 5G access is going to have a direct fiber access. To get that access from the backhaul here on the first street light over to the second street light, I need to relay that wirelessly up at 60 gigahertz. Now I'm accomplishing that with polarization MIMO at 9.24 gigabits per second phi rate. That's a really exciting way to extend from where I have fiber to wherever I need it. Now at this location, I can have Wi-Fi, LTE, whatever. But what I have running here is a 60 gigahertz access directly to my laptop. And I'm getting about 1.6 gigabits per second across this hop and then across the wireless backhaul. If I move this around, we can see that the beam real-time steers to find the best possible angle back to the sector, giving the best performance and the lowest possible interference. With the unit you have up on stage, we have 128 elements using the SIM technology we have here and reaching over 200 meters. We got a few more tricks in the streetlights, so I encourage people to come over, talk to us afterwards. For now, back to you, Aisha.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate it. So, at this point, as you can see, these things are looking like Frankenstein 1960s prototypes, but we are working on putting them in silicon as we are testing them and learning things. This is an example of a mobile router that we are already working on with our partners and making sure that we deploy them in trials with real users so that they can start telling us what they are seeing and whether those peak rates are really coming to fruition and the applications that we are promising are delivering the amazing experience that we've discussed. So, with that, remember we talked about all the pillars. The standard leadership is also very important. And again, it's not alone. It's with all of our partners, competitors, and throughout the ecosystem, organizations like IEEE, and making sure that we bring all those ideas there, we debate them, and we finalize the specs so that anybody can implement in high volume. Organizations like 3GPP, where we are also bringing all of these new specs and discussing them, debating them. Narrowband LTE, for example, there was just a few weeks ago we were able to kind of solidify the spec towards prototyping and testing. We also are looking at all of the forums above that for the layers and applications that come on top of that. So the standard piece is absolutely key. One of the great examples, by the way, of this progress is what just happened with the Open Connectivity Foundation just last week, no, actually a few days ago, where several of us, I read some of the articles where actually some of you in the press said they are actually all getting their act together and coming together for the good of what needs to happen in this connected compute world in IoT and making sure. And this was a beautiful example where we came, it's been about a 2-year effort, we debated, we discussed, there was some give and take, but there's going to be one single implementation standard with everybody contributing to it in an open manner, and this we will look back a few years from now as something that was absolutely key in the IoT subsystem so that we can have that interoperability and all of those things on the network. So this was a joint effort by Aris, Cable Labs, Cisco, Electrolux, GE, Microsoft, Qualcomm, Samsung, to ensure that IoT solutions deliver to what we're promising. So hopefully it gives you a view of what we're also doing from a forum and industry standard standpoint to deliver to this 5G vision on the path to deployment and commercial products. I said we had all these pillars in order to accelerate toward 5G, make it a reality, deliver to products, deliver to the promise, and also, as Sandra said, get in market in front of real users, real industries, learn, iterate, gain time to market advantage, and do it in a way that we end up with a 5G that is global and accessible to all. And we are investing early because we think we're uniquely positioned to deliver to that. So the way I look at it is strong ecosystem partnerships, absolutely key and fundamental. We spend a lot of energy and effort to make that happen, whether it is with competitors and OEM and folks building devices, with people on the network itself, the infrastructure, which we talked about Ericsson earlier, the operators, as well as on the data center and cloud, so that we can deliver this end-to-end experience. So, communication and compute, this is no longer just about communication or just about compute. This is really about the convergence of the two, making it happen, picking the right points of optimizations. For certain industries, the optimization will be on the communication side. For certain other industries, it will be on the compute side. And we think again that Intel is uniquely positioned to make that happen. Last but not least, I hope we're starting to demonstrate to you that the future is now. Yes, 5G is going to have a long life. Commercial deployment and the 50 billion things are not until 2020, that is true. But things are happening right now to make sure, both from a product standpoint, a trial standpoint, a standard standpoint, and looking at the different use cases and industry to make sure that we deliver. So the future is now. It's still a lot of it left to come, but it's happening as we speak. So with that, thank you very much. I hope that this was at least giving you a little bit of a view of what we're doing and how we're making progress in this space with real things happening as we speak, with unprecedented partnerships in the ecosystem end to end, because Intel is uniquely positioned. Thank you.